Hello guys, and welcome to Teaching English to Kids, a journey of fun learning. I'm your host, Paola Pando, and it's a pleasure to be with you again for our third episode. A little about me, in case this is the first time you hear this podcast. I am a Chilean educator with over 2 decades of experience dedicated to teaching English to young learners and training teachers. My work with both pre-service and practicing teachers, it's what inspired me to create this podcast. It's my way of extending that support to all of you who are passionate about refining your craft and making a difference in your classroom. What about today? Today we are going to continue our fascinating exploration into the fundamental question we asked ourselves last episode. How do children actually learn a second language? Last episode we reviewed the main theories of learning and how to apply them to English language teaching. What about today? Let's zoom in on the brain. Why do children seem to learn languages more easily than adults? Here we have some answers. First, brain plasticity. When we talk about how children learn, we must start with the remarkable concept of brain plasticity, also known as neuroplasticity. In childhood, the brain is exceptionally plastic, meaning it's a dynamic, ever-changing organ that can rapidly create new neural connections and pathways. This is not just a simple idea, it's a foundational principle supported by decades of research in neuroscience and in linguistics. Neuroscientists like Dr. Patricia Kuhl from the University of Washington have vastly studied this phenomenon. Using different types of technologies, she has shown that young children's brains are uniquely tuned to process and learn the sounds of any language they are exposed to, and building neural networks for each one. This innate flexibility is why children can pick up new accents with perfect pronunciation and absorb vocabulary and grammar rules with an ease that often eludes adults. Probably you have struggled with pronunciation if you learn English after 12, like me. What about linguistic perspective? From a linguistic perspective, this aligns with the critical period hypothesis, often associated with linguist Lenneberg. This theory suggests there is a biological time window, roughly up until puberty, where the brain is primed for optimal language acquisitions, thanks to his high degree of plasticity. It's as if a child's brain has a vast and an open network of roads ready to be built all the time. Every new word or grammar rule is a new pathway, and the more it's used, the stronger and more efficient it becomes. This is why early exposure is so powerful. It literally shapes the very architecture of the brain, building a solid foundation for a second language. So guys, let's summarize the information we have discussed so far. Phonology. Babies and young children are especially good at distinguishing and reproducing sounds. This is why early learners often develop more native-like pronunciation. Vocabulary and grammar, this can be learned later, even into adolescence or adulthood. Though the strategies that help students going from unconscious absorption to more conscious study. The key in this case is acquisition, not learning. If you know the difference between them, you will understand. So, what does it mean for us as teachers and parents? It means that the activities we do whether it's singing songs, playing games, or simply having conversation with our kids, are actively constructing the bilingual brain neuron by neuron. We talk about children's brain and trying to understand why children learn easily than adults. But there is more. That's not the only reason. We have memory system. Children rely heavily on implicit memory. Don't forget that word, implicit. What does it mean? They learn through play, songs, and routines without realizing they are memorizing. Adults often rely more on explicit memory, studying rules, word lists, trying to understand the language, comparing with their native language, etc., etc. The fact that children rely on implicit memory is not just a minor detail. It is the single greatest advantage we have as educators in the early years. This natural predisposition transformed the entire approach to English language teaching for kids. How? I'm going to explain how. The first one, natural and stress-free acquisition. Unlike adults who often consciously study a language, children acquire it through doing. This process mirrors how they learn their first language. Because there is no pressure to memorize or understand a grammar rule, a list of vocabulary, learning happens in a low anxiety environment. There is no fear of making mistakes because the child's focus is entirely on the activity, the game, the song, the story, not on the language. This makes them more willing to take risks and participate freely. Stephen Krashen discusses widely about this idea of affective filter. I think that is going to be a whole episode in the future. What about number 2? Another benefit of implicit memory, deep-rooted and long-lasting learning. Knowledge gained through implicit memory, especially when paired with emotion, movement, and fun, is encoded more deeply. A song gets stuck in their head, the steps of a routine are remembered physically, and the rules of a game are internalized through play. This creates a strong and multisensory neural pathways. The language learned this way is not easily forgotten because it's tied to an experience, an emotion, not just a page in a textbook. What is another benefit of implicit memory? Number 3, holistic language integration. Implicit learning allows children to absorb chunks of language whole rather than as separate components. Through a routine like greeting song, good morning, how are you today? I'm fine, thank you. They learn an entire functional phrase with correct intonation and context. They may not know that it's a question followed by an answer with a specific structure. No, they simply know that this is what we say at the beginning of the class. This leads to more natural and fluent use from the very start. And our next point is connected to this previous one. Intuitive grammar internalization. This is a crucial advantage of implicit learning. Through constant exposure to correct language models throughout songs, stories, and the teacher talking all the time, children begin to internalize grammar patterns implicitly. They develop a feel for what sounds right without being able to explain or understand the rule. For example, by hearing I play, she plays, we play, in different contexts, they start to acquire the third person singular, that is, naturally, long before they ever learn what a verb conjugation is. In practical terms, this amazing characteristic means our methodology must be validated in a pedagogy centered on different methodologies. Play-based learning, using games that require using games that require repetitive language. That is going to be our topic for next episode. What's another one? Total physical response, TPR. Linking language to actions. Remember that children experience the language, live the language. They don't go to the structure of the language. Music and chants, following the same idea, using rhythm and melody to consolidate vocabulary and structures. You can use actually a rhythm that children really like and introduce all the time the different structures you want to teach. You want them to learn. See, using the same rhythm, the same chants, the same melody, all over again. Meaningful routines. I used to love that. To establish routines at the beginning of the class, using consistent classroom language for instructions, for greeting, transitions. So recycling words and expressions they have learned before, but all the time. And the last one, storytelling. Exposing them to rich, contextualized language in an engaging format. Based on natural approach, reading is the most powerful tool to acquiring a second language, and the first language too. So reading has everything you need to acquire a second language. By emphasizing in implicit memory, we are not just teaching English to children, we are helping them live the language, which is the most natural and effective way for them to learn. There is no more. Natural approach is the way we have to teach our kids. Remember what we discussed in previous episode. Children live the language, they need to experience the language, and it can be painful. I think we mentioned last episode. So memorizing structures and reciting word lists, maybe you learn, but it's painful. But doing naturally is not painful and is forever. Teaching English to children isn't about grammar charts or drills. It's about creating rich, engaging, and supportive environments where language can grow naturally. So that is our job, guys, to provide, to create a supportive environment where language can grow naturally. And everybody's happy with that. Teachers and children are normally happy with that kind of environment. Good. So let's recap our last episodes. 1. Children learn a second language through a mix of repetition, mental construction, social interaction, and exposure to understandable input. Plus 1, according to Krashen's theory. Number 2, their brains are wired to absorb language more naturally, especially in the early years. Neuroscience shows us that there are sensitive periods for different aspects of language. Sounds are easier at the beginning, while vocabulary and grammar can be learned throughout life. And number 3, as teachers, our role is not just to teach words, but to design experiences that connect with children's brains, emotions, and social worlds. So next time you plan your English class, think about the question: am I teaching for the children's brain or just for the textbook or C levels or any kind of official program? That's a very important question you need to answer all the time. Okay, guys, that's all for today's episode of Teaching English to Kids, a journey of fun learning. I hope these ideas inspire you next lesson. And do not forget to share this if you found this helpful. Stay tuned for our next episodes where we'll talk about specific methodologies to apply in the classroom and more. So thank you everyone for listening, and remember, every word you teach is opening a new world for a child. Bye everyone.